This is a trade recap for Thursday, February 12th, 2026. Let's get into it. So pretty normal day in the market, straightforward, not anything really super funky. But yeah, trying to think of anything odd that was going on, anything to note, and honestly, it seemed like a fairly normal morning. Going into the open, normal kind of price action, nothing really strange or out of the ordinary. So everything was pretty good there. But yeah, even on, again, sometimes these mornings are kind of the quote unquote boring mornings. But again, it's one of those ways where no matter what kind of morning it is, you get some reps, some practice, help build that discipline and consistency that is needed when you are a new or struggling or learning trader. And if you do happen to fall into any of those categories and you want to get better, especially if you are new or struggling, it's one of those things that a coach is probably the best thing that you can do. And if you need one, here is a piece of advice for you. I am a student of this gentleman. This is Pat Mitchell. He is a professional day trader, though he originally was in blue-collar work. And he has been in the markets for a little over a decade now. And he has built up a incredible process and knowledge base when it comes to learning how to day trade. He runs a service called Trick Trades. He has also put together inside of Trick Trades a program called SizeUp, and that's what I do. And it is a structured program for learning how to day trade. You start with a small cash account and you basically build that up with your education, experience, and screen time to eventually hit different milestones and become a full-time professional day trader. So if you're interested in something like that, great person, probably one of the highest quality coaches when it comes to day trading out there. If not the highest quality, I don't personally know of any other coaches that I can stand by or say that about. And I've been around a few of them in terms of their services, and nothing even comes close to what Pat offers. So if you're looking for a high quality coach, I cannot recommend him enough. And like I said before, you can find him over at tricktrades.com. He also has a YouTube channel on his own where he posts recaps usually daily. If you want to check that out, you can get a little preview of the kind of information he offers and the quality. And that is just a very, very small amount of the knowledge he possesses. But yeah, definitely check him out. It will be worth your time and effort to go through some of his content and judge for yourself. And with that being said, let's get into the charts. Okay, so here is a recording as we were heading into the session open. See here, we got our daily chart here on the left. We have our 1 minute intraday chart here in the middle, and we have our order execution on the right. As you can see, we have our typical blue levels that Pat starts building a trade plan around. He starts the night before and then refines it the morning of. And that is what we trade. Just again, his plan, these levels don't change during the market session at all. Everything stays right where it is, and we go from there. So I will see here, get some of this other stuff that might be in the way, out of the way. And here we go. So you can see we were kind of just had these, basically this big channel, upper level, low level, upper level and lower level. We've got our moving averages on some of these basically at both ends. On SPY, we're actually above, so it's interesting to see, again, how that's going to ultimately turn out today. And with Qs, seeing how this one will ultimately turn out, because we got kind of moving averages and support and resistance on both sides. So here we go. Hit play. Got about a minute to the open. And kind of compare again. Usually I do calls on one and puts on the other to kind of cover my bases, especially when they're kind of, depending on where exactly they're opening up. So on Qs, we can see it's one thing where it's kind of trending down closer to that. This is where the calls are and where you go long potentially. And one of those things where SPY was kind of floating around, kind of interesting level in that lighter strike, but it's one of those things where, yeah, see exactly what happens when we actually opening up in about 5 seconds here. All right, so there's the open. Q's immediately starts moving towards the level. Nice, powerful push down. Enter into it. Immediately kind of gets sucked up. Not the best fill. I was kind of like, again, here I go with my, pardon my spam with my mouse. I do this sometimes. I try and catch myself because I've been trying to break the habit. And then just waiting to see kind of Q's what it does. Start giving us that first reaction. Only got in with that start position, so pull it right off and just, yeah, nail it. And sometimes that's all we get. Again, you only got the starter in, tested that first support level and went. SPY popped into its first resistance, which, again, if you took that one instead, again, first reaction gave opportunity there. And then it's one of those things where, because of what we're doing with, again, first to trigger, one and done, once you're kind of out of the position, I basically call it there. As you can see, we're holding. And again, there's times to be patient in position and a time to not really let it screw around at all. So when it gives you that first reaction, that's where you want to really pay yourself because you have no idea what it could do. And you have to, again, keep in mind, like, again, this is where you started. Where would you add? Where would you average? What are you risking off of? And as you can see, again, it just continues to work off that level. And the ironic thing is I came down, tested the level more, then pushed back up to basically where it was. But again, where I got out so far, it's like there really wasn't a better place to get out currently. And here's kind of the interesting thing. Again, you're taking a long on Qs while SPY is in a position to where it could potentially fail because it's testing resistance. And if SPY fails, then Qs is also going to come down lower. But as you can see, it's now it's like, okay, it's kind of gotten an idea where it wants to go. So now we're starting to push up, and now we're, again, if you're potentially on that second candle in added, and could have held one for a little bit longer, kind of stripped it out, see where you, again, ultimately got it. And again, you're kind of coming into that. Some of the pre-market ranges, so it's, again, other points you would potentially pay yourself at. And yeah, all good stuff. So switch back to normal. And switch this up. So all in all, good day. Again, got the first reaction, took the one and done. As you can see, that was kind of where it came up to. Pulled back again. I mean, potential add there to, again, ride it back up, but ultimately it's end up turning over. So it's one of those things where if you held too long, it's like you would have started to really have to manage this trade. And then you have to ask yourself, like, is it worth, again, adding, again, correcting? And like, at what point in time do you have to slam enough size in to keep your average tight to potentially get out of the trade on one of these retracements? Because it broke below this level, comes up, had bumps, and then ultimately bails. It's like this is, you would have to keep your average fairly tight in here. And then as soon as it retests this level, it's like, that's where you have to get out, because you have no idea what it's going to do. In the case in point, it's like this one fails, and then if you didn't and tried to hold on, it's like hold then hope, like you're just going to get smoked out of that position. So all in all, I would say good day. Both SPY and Qs worked to plan as Pat had laid out. And overall, it's one of those things where, very solid day in that regard. In terms of like issues, not really any issues within the realm of like the trades that we were taking today. I would say kind of interesting discussion that Pat was having with the room was around, again, the things that we tell ourselves in terms of like, oh, did you screw something up? Again, being hard on yourself. And like one of my kind of issues that I have is like, I'm generally super or hypercritical of myself, especially when I, again, make mistakes, screw up, stuff like that. And I kind of beat myself up, and that can kind of turn into a runaway train, which is a bad thing. And kind of in the discussion, like one of the things that he was going over was more the focusing on the right things when, again, you're kind of like, you're having that discussion with yourself. So instead of like beating yourself up or focusing on the wrong thing, like another member said that they were, again, trying to break themselves the habit of, again, thinking about the money aspect of trading, and how they, again, it's like trying to tell them it's like not what the focus is, and having, again, a better relationship with money, and not letting the fact that what's in your account is money and how that affects maybe you emotionally and the decisions you make in trading, when in reality, by trying to not focus on it and telling yourself those things, you actually are kind of bringing up the fact that you do have that relationship, or that maybe not so healthy relationship with money, or what's in your trading account and regarding it as money. And it's one of those things where money and profit when it comes to trading should be a byproduct, as Pat puts it, of the process. And he is 100% right on that. And I have found that if you focus on the right things, you reinforce the right things, it makes all the difference in the world. Again, it's one of those things that almost sounds like the woo-woo manifestation stuff that a lot of people will talk about. And I guess in some aspects, it's kind of true in the fact that it's not like crystals and woo-woo and that kind of stuff, but it's like reinforcing psychologically and subconsciously where your mind needs to be focused. So he said, again, instead of focusing, say, on having a healthier, quote unquote, relationship with money, to instead focus on the process. Again, you should be trying to reinforce the process, because money, profit, account growth, that is a byproduct of following the process to the letter. Being disciplined, consistent, follow the process, follow the plan, follow the strategy, and all these bits and pieces. And the more you do that more consistently, the more you reinforce. And then you add on top of that the psychological reinforcement of constantly telling yourself to do it right. You kind of actually have a much better change, as opposed to just directly saying, I'm going to have a better relationship with money. I'm going to not focus on money. But when it's one of those things, I'm not going to focus on profit. But it's one of those things, when you do that, you're actually thinking about money. You're thinking about profit. You're thinking about the relationship with those things, which might seem counterintuitive, but you're actually reinforcing the wrong things, as he says. And he's right. So it's an interesting kind of situation to analyze, especially with ourselves. We're looking at it and really digesting and breaking it down. It's like, make sure you're reinforcing and focusing on the right things, and not beating yourself up to a point where you're building bad habits, both consciously and subconsciously, because those are the things that'll come back to haunt you. But it was a great discussion. And that's kind of stuff you get in a real education service. It's not again, alert service where, again, they're going to tell you, like, this is where you can enter now and pay now and all that kind of like BS that's out there with a lot of the services that are out there that are just looking to be flashy and post members' P&Ls when they get it, but you happen to never see them post when, again, their members are blowing up because they followed someone into a trade. They have no idea what they're doing, no idea how to, again, manage risk, pay themselves, all that stuff. And that's what makes trick trade so much different. Like, Pat goes over every aspect of this, not to, again, basically train you how to operate in the trading environment. And that's just so much different than anything that's out there. And I can't even think of anyone that's even really successfully replicated how he does it. So again, that's kind of what makes him a cut above everyone else. So if you're looking to really step it up in terms of, again, you doing this, or if you're brand new to this and you want to start off on the right foot, like, Trick Trades is the place to do it. And there is no other place that can really even match it, really. So yeah, that's, again, my 2 cents. I know I harp on that quite a bit in basically every video, but it's one of those things where, yeah, it is what it is in that regard. It's like, when you are at the top, you are at the top. And that's one of those things where there's nothing wrong with that. And the fact that he is as accessible as he is versus a lot of these other firms, especially prop firms and places like that charge an arm and a leg, like, for what he offers his service for, it's a damn good deal, and you're not gonna beat it for the quality of the education you get there. You're really not. So again, new struggling traders, I can only recommend that you do truly check it out. You can get a sampling of that over on his YouTube channel, where he posts free videos, recaps, and whatnot. I think he's got over 1,500 videos over there at this point. It's a lot of content to crawl through. Yeah. And again, you get a little taste of, again, the quality of the education. Give it a shot for a month. And I would not be surprised if you did end up staying, if you just give him that one shot, because it truly is, like, you can see the quality of the education. You can also see the interactions with the other members of the service and kind of how their journey has gone and everything. And I just want to say it's pretty eye-opening, and it can ultimately, you can see how life-changing this can be. So yeah, I know it's a bit of a longer one, but all in all, good day, good discussion in the room. And yeah, I'll catch everyone tomorrow for the next one. Take care of yourselves, and see you later.